Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy the coach from the WWE, Madden 20, the Golf Channel, you name it. It's Tuesday night. It's Facebook Live. That means there is only one show, and I mean one show that I'm watching on Tuesdays. And it's SLZE Sports, hosted by Coach Scott, Sweet Lou, D Nash, and Howie. Now, when you've got these four minds working together, conflicting together, arguing together, it makes for a show that I just cannot miss. And I love Facebook Live. I love Facebook Watch. I love it all. So check out SLZE Sports with Coach Scott, Sweet Lou, D Nash, and Howie.
Oh, and I lost D. Oh, there's D. And I believe we're back on Facebook. Hi, everybody. Sorry about that short delay.
All right. There we go. No technical difficulties. Everything's fine.
You know, it happens. You try something new. You get burnt. It happens. We'll get there. But anyways, welcome to SLZE Sports, everybody. Thank you for joining us once again, of course. I am Coach Scotty with Sweet Lou and D Nash. Play to do tonight. Sweet Lou's got a hot seat coming up tonight. If we have a chance later on tonight, maybe we'll talk about best, worst quarterbacks again, but we'll see how that all goes. For now, well, Lou, baseball just ain't happening.
I mean, I can combine this with our sleeves, too, if you'd like to, because I don't see how we name anything but Major League Baseball, our sleeves this week.
Biggest story going on, you might as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very complex story, and then in some ways it's a very simple story. You know, we haven't seen a work stoppage in baseball in about a quarter century, I believe. Like 1994, I think, is the last time when the players struck. You know, we don't see player strikes in any sport, I feel like, anymore. Now it's the owners lock players out. And you know, the other thing about this work stoppage here is this is completely the owner's doing. And you've not grasped here, I have a complete bias in this area. And I'll explain some of those reasons in a second. But you know, the CBA that they were working under, the collective bargaining agreement, did expire in December. But part of what they put into all CBAs now is that when they expire, you know, it isn't just over. They just work under the old one. And the players made it very clear they were willing to work under the old one while they worked on a new one. And the owners back in December locked the players out. There was a lot of player movement. There were free agent signings and after the season ended. And into this early December, we saw some huge signings, Max Scherzer being the biggest one. And then all of a sudden, boom, they put down the hammer and they said, we're locking the players out. And for 43 days, nothing happened. You know, they said they were doing the lockout to create a sense of urgency around negotiations. And then the owners didn't attempt to negotiate for 43 days. So there clearly was no urgency whatsoever. And when they did start negotiating in January, it literally, like, there was no negotiating sessions. They would meet, they would hand proposals across the table for like 10 minutes, and then they'd leave and go look at their proposals and then put out PR statements and send out counter proposals 3, 4, 5 days later. And it wasn't until really the last 6, 7 days that they even got any urgency. And mostly it was because the owner said, if as of Monday the 28th, if we don't have an agreement, we're going to start canceling games because we'll be, you know, basically 31 days out from opening day, and you got to have some amount of weeks for spring training or people will get hurt. And they did. They actually seemed to have some negotiations going on. Monday came around. They had like a 16-hour session into like the early morning hours of Tuesday. They extended the deadline to Tuesday at 5 p.m. But again, it's a lot of minutia. But the most horrible thing is everything is about money. The owners, because of the last CBA, have created a system where we as fans see guys like, you know, Mike Trout, Bryce Harper, Max Scherzer now recently, Fernando Tatis. They get these $300, $400 million contracts. We think players are doing fine, but it's just top maybe 1-2% of players. There's 10 or 15 players in the league making these mega contracts, and most of the rest of the guys getting paid or actually having jobs are young talent, guys who are not even eligible for that first contract. They're all rookies, all making less than $1 million a year. You don't become eligible for your arbitration, basically a chance to negotiate your first real contract until you're 5-6 years into the league. And some of these guys, especially the pitchers, are used up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you see all these young pitchers that, get used up, and then they never make it to that first contract. And that the owners have figured out that is the model that they would like to work under. They don't really want veterans that are 30 years old, not 38-year-old veterans, but 30-year-old veterans to ever make it to a contract. And the players have attempted to rework the economics of the game, and the owners won't have nothing to do with it.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, Lou. Major League Baseball is the lowest base salary of any pro sport, right?
No, they probably have the highest base salary, I would assume. I mean, but would you want like league minimums?
League minimums, yeah.
Oh, I have no idea what league minimums. I would say they have one of the highest average salaries. And the other thing is
that sounds about right. Most of that
baseball players also have guaranteed contracts, unlike football players who can be cut at any time. Once you sign that contract, it's guaranteed for the life of the contract.
Yeah.
But again, we all see these huge, contracts get signed by those again, there's probably no more than 10 or 15 guys in the league with those mega contracts. There's 26 guys on a major league roster. There's 30 teams. That's 780 players. But 2% of that is 15, 16 guys. And I would venture to guess there's not many more than that with these mega contracts. If there's even that, there's probably 10 or 11 guys on these mega contracts.
Yeah, but it was just a couple of years ago where they attempted to do away with giving those second tier guys.
Well, that's what it is.
Contracts.
That's what's happened is that these guys are making 30-40 million a year. There's hardly anybody making $8 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
There's guys making under $1 million on their on the rookie salaries. When they get to arbitration, they make a little bit more, and then by the time you out of the arbitration process, they can't get jobs. You have a lot of middle of the road guys who their careers are over at 29, 30 years old because they can't get signed anywhere.
Mm.
But I just one example of where the owners clearly have no interest in, they have this thing called the competitive balance tax, which is basically the soft salary cap that they have in Major League Baseball. There is no salary cap in Major League Baseball. What there is it's like a luxury tax. If your team's salary goes over a certain amount, you have to pay money. So teams mostly try to stay under it. It's like, I think this last season it was like 212 or 215 million, right?
Mm-hmm.
The players wanted jacked up hugely, right? They asked for
course.
somewhere in the range of like 280 million. And the owners were like, no, we want to keep it right around the same. So in weeks and weeks of negotiations, the players I think have come all the way down to like 238, and the owners are at 220. They've moved literally like $3 million. And the players have moved like $42 million, just to show you that, and then the players wanted to have a draft lottery. Mm-hmm. So that instead of, and granted, this is the Major League Baseball draft where probably 60 to 70% of players are high school kids, not college kids, which means you're rolling dice. You have no idea if an 18-year-old is going to make it to the majors in 5 or 6 years.
Oh, yeah.
But they said to avoid tanking, which is the reason we had an NBA lottery, we've had an NBA lottery for 37 years?
Yeah, almost 40 now.
Now, they're not asking for every team not in the playoffs because that would be like 24, 10 teams make the playoffs. They're not asking for a 20-team lottery. The players, I think, asked for about, 12-team lottery.
Mm-hmm.
The owners offered 3. So then the players came all the way down to 6. And the owners, they started, one of the things agreement they came to supposedly on Monday was 6.
Mm-hmm.
And then the owners, they had an agreement on this. We could put that one in the win column. We'll put that over to the side. That's been agreed on. At the last minute, the owners were like, well, the only way we'll agree to that is if you give us the playoffs. Because that's what the owners want. All the owners really want out of this entire thing is they want to jack the playoffs up to 14 teams. Because more playoff teams means more playoff games, revenue. Which means more playoff money, which means more media money, of which the players see little or none of.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know how I feel about expanded playoffs, so.
Right. I mean, it's and that's the crap that Manfred, the line when he came out yesterday and announced that they were going to cancel the first week of the season, which is a complete joke. I mean, my thought is, well, that's the other little bit of note, and I know we can't spend all show talking about this. it was leaked on Sunday. Somebody talked to the press or somebody from The Athletic, which does a great job of reporting on things, that the owners were prepared to miss a month. Like the day before the deadline, somehow it got out that the owners were already prepared to miss a month of the season. So you already, I mean, my opinion is that, I mean, I honestly think we could be looking at July before we see games. And I hate to say that. I hate to be the pessimist, the doomsdayer, but I mean, I as on a completely personal note, I called my, probably most of our viewers know, I've been a national season ticket holder for the entire existence of the franchise here in Washington. Mrs. Sweetlow and I actually pay we have a layaway plan kind of. We literally pay from like September till June. We have 10 monthly payments, right? So I still have 4 payments left for the season, March, April, May, and June. But I called my rep this morning and I was like, you're not, I pay on the 15th of every month. I said, you're not authorized to charge me anymore. And the woman was very, very nice to me, I have to say. And she was like, of course, that's not a problem. She's like, just as long as you know as soon as the CBA is signed, we will, are going to charge your credit card. And I'm like, that's fine. And I didn't rail on her like I'm railing tonight. She's a very nice person and she was being nice to me. So I didn't give her the whole, Ted Lerner can go suck an egg spiel. But, in my opinion is I don't think we're going to see they basically left the negotiations Monday afternoon or Tuesday afternoon, and there is no scheduled resumption, which to me means if you're not going to get back together for another week, well, that's at least another week of games that are gone. So that's 2 weeks. I mean, I'd say that month is the minimum. I'd say, end of April is the earliest we'll see games. The owners they like the system that's in place. They have crafted the last CBA, the players got some concessions on, I don't know if you've noticed this, but there's a lot more days off for teams. They lengthened the season. That's why the season starts in, the end of March and it goes up until that first week in October. It's because the players wanted more days off during the season. They wanted to have more scheduled days off. That was a big concession they got. They wanted, Manfred to have less. They wanted to have more power over the, kind of what Goodell does have, like over suspensions, over PEDs and things like that. So they got a few concessions, but in that, they gave up a lot of economic concessions that they now would like to get back. And the owners have no interest in giving it to them. They make minuscule little concessions. The players give huge concessions, and then the owners are like, take it or leave it.
So, Lou, do you think this is more so about finances or just control? Or finances control that leads to finances?
Yeah, it's all about money. It's all about, they are just greedy people. What they don't see is the fact that they are killing, baseball is already losing fans by the droves. I'm an old man. People like me, they probably have for life, but people like me are, it's becoming a niche sport. It's becoming hockey.
Yeah.
Which isn't a bad thing. Like hockey has a niche, hockey will always, but hockey plays to arenas with, 12,000 people in them. Hockey gets ratings that, it gets quadrupled by reality television, they get if a reality TV show gets a 10 or an 11, hockey gets like a 2 or a 3. And that's what baseball gets better than that. Probably baseball gets twice so high, but that's where baseball is headed. But the thing is, they'll keep making money as long as they can get people in the ballpark. And that's the thing is, Manfred walks out there and cries poverty. They made $43 billion as an industry since the last CBA was signed. And he's out there saying this has been a hard, 5 years for owners. No, it hasn't. It's been, but the players' salaries, what is made public, we know that player salaries have gone down. Even with those mega contracts by those few superstars.
Yeah.
But yeah, Coach, I would understand you feeling that particular way because you're not getting a cut of that check. If you were getting a piece of the pie, you probably would be like, hey, let's get 20 teams in there. I understand you want to see it from a perspective of being competitive, but if you're generating revenue from it.
But it's going to make them, like a lot of people think that they, like NBA and NHL regular seasons are meaningless because 16 out of 30 teams make the playoffs.
I have a problem when half the teams make it. When it's even more than half, that's just stupid. I mean, what are you playing the season for?
Especially 162 games.
Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily say that the NBA is the season is meaningless.
Not meaningless, but it's.
I don't mean meaningless, but at the same time, like, it just seems less important to me. I mean, there's a reason, really, even though, we'll talk about it when the NBA hits its playoffs, at least, and whatnot. But, and we bring up stuff now and then, of course, but in the All-Star game. But until it gets through that first, second round, like, I'm not even paying attention. Like,
but there's certainly less a sense of urgency. I mean, the Milwaukee Bucks were a 3 seed in one conference.
Yeah.
Which means, what were they? They had, maybe the 5th best record in the league last year?
Probably, yeah.
And they won the title.
I would say now it's gotten more so. It was about matchups before, but it's even more so about potential matchups when you're looking at those 4 teams that make it to the play-in game. Do you really want to be in anywhere between 7 and 10, trying to get into that playoff situation, or do you want to go ahead and try to at least become a 6 seed so you won't have to end up potentially facing the 1 or 2 automatically? So you have that situation, and then you have it so that at least more fan bases are more invested for a longer period of time, hoping that they make a playoff spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is what the owners will tell you. They want to get more fan bases invested, because that's what, again, more money in their pocket. If it's more people coming to the games, that those teams that are fighting for the 7-10, I guess. And if once your team is eliminated, I'm sure attendance goes down. So, like in baseball. But baseball, I think, has achieved that with 5 teams in each league. You have all those extra wild card spots.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I think the players did concede. They said they'd do 12. They don't want to do 14. They say they'll do 12, which would be 6 teams in each league.
Yeah.
But the problem is, like, they don't look at them as different issues. They like, we'll give you we'll I mean, literally come together on an issue, and then we'll only give you that issue if you agree to this one. Like, no, it should be. And they still, no discussions of pace of play, which is what's really driving people away.
Mm-hmm.
No discussions of, like, robot umps. Are we going to switch to that, which is also driving people away. No discussion of keeping the game fair in terms of, like, sign stealing and or doping. I mean, there's a trial going on now for that poor guy from the Angels who died a few years ago, and they're actually putting people from the Angels and played with him, that Tyler Skaggs, on trial right now. I mean, there are so many black eyes for this league going on, and all they can see is, how can we scrape a couple, few more $1 million away from these players.
Well, they got to scrape it from somewhere, because if they're not growing their fan base, where's that money going to come from?
Oh, I think in the long run. I mean, but again, I mean, and maybe I'm just pie in the sky. I just have my head in the clouds here, but no one looks out for the best interest of the game. That idea that if that's the job of a commissioner, I know I've said this many times. I say it about Goodell. I say it about Silver. I've said it about, I say it about Manfred and whoever that guy, Bettman. These guys are just mouthpieces to the owners. They act like they're the, head owner, and they're not supposed to be. They're supposed to look out for the fans, the players, and the owners. I mean, part of the problem is, Manfred's job when he took over, when he did for Selig, was he was the head negotiator. Well, he's never stopped that job, clearly. Like, he still thinks that's his job. When he ascended, when Bud, I said this to my Mrs. Sweetloop today. I said, it's a sad day when you've, been so bad at your job, you make people miss Bud Selig.
and you're right, but Lou, I wouldn't say that you're necessarily. Well, I mean, technically it is pie in the sky, but no, you're right that it should be their job is to continue to grow the game, which should be what you would assume it would be a benefit to the owners, so they can continue to generate money and look at the long game. But hey, when you're just more so concerned about what's going on immediately, and you're not thinking about the future, or you don't care for the future, then yeah, these are moves that you tend to make.
I guess I mean, these owners treat these like, these teams like their assets, and it's just it's like, I own a chain of, like, car dealerships. I own the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
Which one's going to make me more money? Which one am I going to have? At the end of the day, which one do I? What can I sell it for down the road?
Correct me if I'm wrong again, Lou. It's just more so a changing of the guard for all sports, Whereas at one point in time, an owner of a team, that was job. Whereas a lot of these owners now, they have. I'm not going to say that other owners or older owners didn't have
Some of
ownership in
them,
other
yes,
things.
like the old school guys, like the guy who owned the Dodgers, the O'Malleys. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that was their asset. They were the Dodgers owner, and
Yeah.
even Steinbrenner. For people that loved or hated him, like he was in the shipping industry, but like once he became the owner of the Yankees, that was what he did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, there's a public trust to owning a major sports franchise. Like so many people in you live in a huge metropolitan area like New York, or Washington, or Philadelphia, Chicago, or Los Angeles. Millions of people live there. They go on with their day-to-day lives and they put so much of their heart and souls into their local sports teams. You are the steward of that team. There's a lot of public trust put in you. And when you don't really give two craps about how they do, you don't care how they perform. All you really care about is that this asset grows in value. Then that's what's lost. I mean, and it's all throughout all sports. But I feel like there's so much money in football that they're all going to make money. They don't care.
Yeah.
Then they all try to win.
Mm-hmm. But not all of them.
No, but I think a good number of them are trying to win. There are a few that don't. But it feels like in baseball, hardly any of them care about winning.
So, just to move this along a bit, because yes, we could probably talk about it for a while. No, it's fine. I want to talk.
Not you, because we could do that all day. But go ahead.
I want to talk about another unmitigated disaster. And D, this one's a little closer to home for you. What about Art Briles at Grambling? Well, that lasted, didn't it?
4 days after his initial hiring, and I'm wondering why he got fired. Do you guys have any idea what would lead to his firing? Well, not actually, he didn't fire. He didn't get fired. He resigned. So, do you guys have any idea what could have led to his resignation?
I have no idea, D.
What about you, there, Lou? You have any idea what could have led to his resignation?
Coach is being sarcastic because Coach knows exactly what led to his resignation.
Oh, of course, Coach knows exactly what it is, right? And the thing is, which I find to be extremely interesting,
it's the same reason Art Briles hasn't been able to get a job outside of high school coaching for the last 5 years.
Well, no, because remember he was an assistant with the Cleveland Browns with who? Hugh Jackson. So that's why his relationship with Hugh was so great, and what led Hugh to bringing him in to Grambling. And I'll say this, as a fan, I was waiting for week 3 of the season. Can you guess what week 3 is going to be?
Could it be some Aggies taking on the Grambling?
Oh God, no! There's no way in the world I would have wanted to see that A&T defense face a potential Browns offense. And I don't even know exactly how good and or bad this Grambling team is going to be, right? But no, that week 3, even though it's a non-conference game, that's against Jackson State and Coach Deion Sanders.
Right.
So I would have wanted to see what an Art Briles styled offense would have looked like playing against a very mouthy Coach Deion Sanders in a conference where they're known to run up scores. You're talking about a guy in Deion Sanders who put up 60 plus against Alabama A&M last season because of some conversations had between the two head coaches, and he said he basically wanted to see the scoreboard, wanted to see how well it worked. Yeah, I wanted to see whether or not Art Briles would have done the same thing to that defense there in Jackson State. But hey, we'll no longer get it because there are a lot of people, not just alums and not just fans of HBCU athletics, but prominent members of alumni there from Grambling State that spoke out on it. Primarily one, Doug Williams, and we all know Doug Williams' connection with the university. Of course, he was a star quarterback there. Mm-hmm. He was actually at one point in time a quarterback there, not quarterback, but head coach there at Grambling. But there are a lot of people who find Doug Williams' words to be a little hollow, being the organization where he currently works for, and we all know what team that is here in DC that have their own indiscretion.
Well, can we just talk about how amazing of a year so far, in a horrible way, it's been for Hugh Jackson just 2 full months in? Because let's remember, first of all, he admitted to tanking for the Browns. He came out and was a big member of that conversation. Of course, there's this Art Briles tragic situation. And don't forget, he also has already admitted to tax evasion this year, too.
Wait. What?
Huh?
That's news to me there, Coach. That's the thing I didn't hear. Now, you're right. You're talking about a very interesting roller coaster there, because you get his hiring, which is, of course, a high, after being hired as the offensive coordinator there in Tennessee State. Mm-hmm. Then there's a situation where he's stealing major recruits from his rival, Southern University. Then he gets in Art Briles, which a lot of people are intrigued, but also at the same time have an understanding of how much of a distraction he could be, not realizing it would be that much of a distraction. And then now you come through with the whole tax evasion thing. That's a whole nother thing that I've heard no one say anything about. And now I'm intrigued to see exactly how people react to that.
Yeah, I'm looking up this one. I know it has to deal with some weird, crazy, I want to say almost human trafficking type of thing. And it had to deal with the Hugh Jackson Foundation. They collected $158,000. $158,000 in 2019. Paid out $115,000. 75% of the donations to the Hugh Jackson charity the Hugh Jackson Foundation was by Hugh Jackson. And the foundation's website doesn't have any public events listed, and their last annual report of work was back from 2018. There's a whole lot of shadiness.
Send me that link, Coach, please. My God.
There's more to it, but I can at least send you the one that I quickly found.
Yeah, send me that, please. Please, 2 times, because that is insane. But yeah, and I'm going to go ahead and say that it probably didn't go without suggestion that he resigned, because of the amount of reaction that they received from it. So, but at the same, this is the same university that said that they vetted this hire, and then oddly enough, Hugh Jackson came out in support and released a letter on Monday saying how much they were in support of the hiring, only for him to resign the next day.
Yeah. Absolutely nuts. But
anyways, so the road of hiring a new OC is out there now. I had to bring this up because one of the names is highly interesting. Mm-hmm. Now, 2 names which are heavily known in the HBCU world. T.C. Taylor, who is currently the OC at Jackson State. Right. Ted Williams, former quarterback at Howard University, has also ran through various HBCUs as an OC and is also an assistant currently at the Houston Texans.
Oh, and also a heck of a hitter for the Boston Red Sox.
Well, that's a whole different Ted White, but But the third potential name that I saw tossed out there, shout out to my boys over there at HBCUsports.com in terms of names that have come up as a potential assistant. This is a guy who's had no coaching experience whatsoever. I think maybe other than an assistant, it's a name that you guys have heard before. Former quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals, Jeff Blake.
Oh. Yep.
So those are
number
names,
2 pick, right?
Wasn't Jeff Blake? So. Like... Yes. Yeah. So these are names that have been bounced around as potential replacements for Art Briles. But go ahead. I was going to say, being that, of course, he does have NFL pedigree, there are a lot of people he can potentially call on, but those are the names that have popped up as potential leaders in the clubhouse.
Well, very quick side question here. Does Art Briles ever get another position in college football?
No.
Lou?
Yeah, I'm only if Hugh Jackson. No, I don't. I don't know how the guy gets a job anywhere, but he's just such a distraction anywhere he goes.
Yeah, at this point, if he couldn't stick a job at Grambling, and that's no disrespect to the institution, but if he couldn't come in as an OC on the FCS level, No.
In one of the bigger not news of the week, Sean McVay stays as the coach for the Rams. There was a lot of speculation he may take a job in broadcasting, and supposedly a lot of money was being offered for him to go into broadcasting.
Supposedly that got a lot closer than you would have thought, I heard.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so maybe it doesn't get to come on, son. Okay.
Ooh, put it down.
Yeah, no, I heard that. Like, well, I think mostly because of the amount of money that was being.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, they're going to give Aikman like $18 million a year to come to Monday Night Football.
Yeah. Oh, you mean Thursday or Monday?
Monday. Aikman's
No,
Wow.
he's going to ESPN. He's not going to that Amazon thing with Al Michaels. No.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's going to ESPN Monday Night Football.
Well, I mean, and how much is Romo getting? Romo's getting.
Well, that's the thing. He's getting just a smidge more than Romo. I think that was his ask.
It's gonna be the whole new quarterback thing, you know.
And
you got to pay me like, Tony Romo was nice and good, but I'm a Hall of Famer. You got to pay me more than that guy.
Yeah, give me $1 more. That was the whole.
Basically, like I think Romo got $17.5 million, so they got to pay him $18 million.
Oh, so he pulled a Price is Right.
Yes.
$18 million in one.
Absolutely. I'm not kidding you. I really do think that's what his people were like. I got rings. I got a Hall of Fame jacket. Tony Romo has neither.
So
yeah, oh my God.
Some people would say Tony's a better commentator. I don't know. That's personal preference. But yeah, no. Troy was like, yeah, I got the hardware.
Cool. So I don't have to hear him on Fox anymore. All right. And then Washington's not good enough to play on Mondays, so I won't be hearing him on Mondays either. Win-win. All right. I mean, I wasn't hearing him on Fox either because, of course, Washington wasn't getting the A team. But yeah, I digress.
So, also announced by the NFL this past week, they're going to be playing their first game in Germany ever in the 2022 season. It hasn't been announced who the other team will be yet. The only team announced is that it's going to be Tampa Bay, the Buccaneers going to Munich to play where FC Bayern plays in Allianz Arena in Munich.
They're going to play the Frankfurt Galaxy.
Well,
they realized that Tom Brady retired, right?
Yeah. Well, it says the league apparently plans on playing some games in Frankfurt in the future. But yeah, so here we go to another city with the NFL.
But real quick, Lou, did you hear there's a hypothesis rolling around that Tom Brady may show up in the XFL in a couple of seasons. In a couple of years, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure he'll be in the USFL also. Oh, and I heard he's going to the CFL for a good chunk of change.
Why not? Playing all of them.
And then the NHL is going to hire him to be, I don't know. Anyways, so also a big story that didn't quite get as much movement as you would normally get because I'd hate to put it that way, but it is women's, the WNBA. But it's crazy how close they got to losing a franchise in what happened because the New York Liberty, of all teams as well, they were caught for chartering flights to away games during the second half of the WNBA season, which is highly apparently against all the rules of the WNBA. And the general counsel of the league did say that termination of the franchise is an option for the punishment of this charge, and it was being looked into. But instead, the New York Liberty are going to be fined $500,000.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, so they can't. Well, I assume what? Like, the Liberty has money, and they're like owned by some hedge fund guy or something. I don't know. Like, so yeah, he was putting the ladies on charter flights instead of sticking them on commercial flights, and it's funny that that's a no-no.
Yeah.
But is that a no-no because like it's like a recruiting thing? Like they would get more free agents to sign there if you were being treated better? Is that the problem?
Well, wasn't that always the Dallas Maverick thing with Mark Cuban? Didn't Cuban always make his...
How many free agents were they getting in Dallas, though?
Yeah, I wasn't sure why the
it's
rule
a weird
was
rule
in there. Like,
well, my guess is that when other teams hear of it, they're probably going to want the same amenity, and other owners may not be willing to pay for it.
Or we don't have I would assume don't have the ability to pay for it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it was funny. I mean, it's slightly funny, but also like kind of sad that that's the state of affairs. And
well, and you got to realize too, a $500,000 fine in WNBA goes quite further than you would think a $500,000 fine in the NBA or Major League Baseball or the NFL or anything else.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So I mean, it's a huge fine, but it's crazy to think that there was actually the talk of termination over this rule breaking. Yeah, crazy. Also, let's see. Derek Jeter has stepped down as the CEO of the Miami Marlins. Not really have a whole lot on that story besides he just decided to step down. I mean, I guess
Coach, I was going to give you such props for your good segue into the Art Briles story, but I thought you would have segued into that one. Like, speaking of tax evasion, Derek Jeter. Like, since we all know he's a tax felon, but
see, that's Lou's crossover if he was running the show.
I'm just stating facts. I mean, Derek was convicted of tax felonies. Well, when he was a player, and the fact that he then went, his first order of business as the chairman of your team was to move their operations to the Cayman Islands so that they could avoid some legal operation. So you're really the Grand Cayman Marlins because of Derek Jeter. But other than that, I mean, that's what I remember his tenure. That and the fire sale that he did to your club.
Yeah, the fire sale.
Still not winning any games, so does it really matter?
You made the playoffs during the COVID season. Hey, I mean, we might have another, COVID-esque season this year with only about 60 games scheduled. So maybe this is good for the Marlins. But how do you feel as a Marlins fan? That's really what I wanted to know. I
don't really care either way. Like, I don't think he was doing much for the team as a team. I know he was trying to make it his own to begin with, as we talked when he took it over. They got a couple nice pieces here and there, a couple decent players that they've brought up, and the Brian Andersons of the world and whatnot. But I mean, they made the playoff in the shortened season. But if you remember, actually towards the end of that season, they started falling off. Where we had even mentioned if the season went another month or two, there's a good chance they probably would have fallen out of it. So the shortened season did help them make the playoffs. I would be more surprised if all of a sudden Don Mattingly decided to step down. Because I'm actually surprised that he stayed there as long as he has at this point, and that management has kept him. I think he's a great influence to have there, and truthfully, I think he's a great manager because he's done a lot with not a lot on that team and at least had them competitive at times. But, I mean, Jeter stepping down pretty much means nothing to me.
Okay.
It is what it is. Anyway, so also, I guess in legal action, D, I know you were mentioning it, and you posted it too, but the USFL is suing itself, right?
Yeah, I find that move to be very interesting because, help me out here a little bit, fellas. It's the old owners of the USFL,
correct,
suing the new version of the USL,
correct,
for logo and name usage. Is that what it is?
The group seeking an injunction to prevent the new league from using any names or logos associated with the defunct league.
Yeah, which is, I'm like, okay, that's all of them, right? So now what you're saying is that the entire league, who is it? Who doesn't have an old name?
I'd have to look at them, but I'll stick with most.
Yeah, because I was going to go with the impression that it was all of them. But, I mean, hey, it's interesting that they're going through with this entire injunction for something that they haven't been using for years whatsoever. This just seems like a money grab to me. I'm like, okay, so now you want to go ahead and try to collect on something that you haven't used, in well over 40 years? Okay, cool. If anything, you just need to talk to your boy, Chief in Orange, or Orange in Charge, about getting some of your money back. He was the one that probably led to the detriment of your league. But I digress.
Something I saw that funny that came out today. If anyone that doesn't know, at least the interviews within the NFL Combine has begun yesterday and today.
Sure has.
With everything else coming up soon. I don't know if you guys saw with Sam Howell during his interview, the quarterback from North Carolina, who's going to get drafted by somebody. This actually came out of, and I find it funny because Lou, of all teams, your Philadelphia Eagles were interviewing Sam Howell. And he was asked what he went through, and not only was it an abnormal interview, like they most are. Don't forget, there's a lot of weird things and weird questions and stuff that happen at the Combine. You can look them up. There's been a ton of stories. But Sam Howell said that during his interview, the Eagles made him shoot mini basketballs into a mini hoop, and he made 2 of 5 for whatever that's worth.
Whatever that's worth.
Alrighty.
So his comment was, "I only made 2 of 5, so I'm probably not high on their board right now."
Well, I've heard stories about Sirianni. Like, what does he do? He like plays rock papers, or he plays like tic-tac-toe with guys, and it has to do with, which are, inane children's games, because he wants to see what their like competitive nature is. So it has nothing to do with the game itself. He wants to see how. So maybe that was what it's about. Like, it has nothing to do with shooting balls into hoops, but like, yeah, you hear stories about guys that like Michael Jordan's so competitive, he'll like, he plays gin rummy like a crazy person,
Yeah.
So yeah, there is some story about Sirianni that like when he first got to the Eagles and he was like, doing mini camp, that he would like sit around in the locker room with the guys, and it was either rock, scissors, paper, scissors or something, just to see how like competitive guys are.
And the last thing I
like
have,
it's a mind game thing.
The last thing I have from you,
take that for what it's worth.
The last thing I have for you guys comes from college baseball, and a name I want you and any of our listeners out there to remember: the name Ben Joyce. I don't know if you heard about young Ben Joyce, but he is a pitcher at the University of Tennessee. He made his debut this past week, a starting pitcher that is, and he threw 15 pitches. 15 of his pitches at over 100+ miles an hour, including one that went up to 103 miles an hour.
Oh, wow.
Tons of skill. And it's funny, too, to think, because you think college baseball, obviously pitches aren't usually quite as fast because, the guys that go there weren't the guys that got highly touted at a high school to get drafted as much, at least, or some of them just go because they want to go to college, but for the most part that's the case. And imagine being a freshman going from high school pitchers and like your first outing, and all of a sudden you're seeing 103 miles an hour coming at you.
I don't want to think about that. How about that? I just don't want to even think about it, because I had trouble with 70 miles an hour, so yeah, I don't even want to think about the hunch. Yeah.
So anything else you want to throw in there before we move on, fellas?
Sorry.
I was gonna say, Lou, you got anything? Because I got 2 things.
Well, I had a rest in peace that just popped up this afternoon.
Your rest in peace might be half of what I was thinking. You can go ahead. You want me to go first, and then you do the rest in peace?
Sure.
Because I have a strange feeling it's the same thing. Yeah. So back to NASCAR, we have another HBCU sighting in the world of NASCAR. Same driver, different school. So Greg Biffle, once again back at it, who's a driver for the New York racing team, which is owned by an alum of Grambling State University, which of course is a historically black college. This time, though, they were driving in Vegas on the NASCAR Cup Series. But this time, the car will be painted in a color scheme that Zoe would love, Florida A&M. Nice. So shout out to Greg Biffle and New York Racing for continuing to represent HBCUs. And I'm wondering if there's any way that Zoe tries to get this FAMU 44 Greg Biffle car toy if it's available.
Will there be a Rattler painted like going around the car? Because that would be cool.
No, just the head on the front. Just the head on the front. Matter of fact, let me check to make sure. Yeah, it's just the I don't even know what I want to call it. It's about to bite Rattler with his mouth open, and the car is black with orange and green paint. But yeah.
And we got one more thing, right?
Yeah,
the rest in peace, Lou. I just want to make sure it's the same thing.
Oh, it was it was a young woman at Stanford. Is that the one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So her name is Katie Meyer. She's was the captain and the goalie for the Stanford women's soccer team. Actually helped them win the national championship in 2019. She was found dead in her on-campus residence on the last couple days. There's no cause of death or anything, but yeah, she was a captain of the team that won the national championship just a couple of years ago. and she was 22 years old. So obviously a tragic passing, and it popped up on most of the sports media sites today.
Yeah, because they didn't have they didn't announce a cause of death as of yet.
No.
When you're 22 years old, that's
pretty awful.
Very
horrible. No easy way to move on from that. We are SLZE Sports, SLZesports.com. Likes on Facebook, follows on Twitter, SLZE Sports. Every Tuesday night, 9 p.m. right here on Facebook Live. Lou, did you want to mention the other sleeves of the weeks, or are we just moving straight on?
Well, there were three quick ones. I can name them other than you put one of them up here. There was I don't know who Tammy Sitch is, but you can probably tell everybody.
Sunny.
She was arrested on. Who is she?
Sunny from WWE fame.
Oh, she's Sunny.
Whoa!
What was she arrested for? Multiple.
Well, she's been arrested many times, but.
So there aren't any
under
sunny days in this situation, Honda coach.
She was arrested for driving under the influence, reckless driving, careless driving, operating vehicles. So basically, all the same thing was for failure to wear a seatbelt, driving without a license, failure to possess a license. She didn't have the car wasn't insured, the car wasn't registered.
Wow, she's just riding dirty all the way around.
So basically, she was drunk driving in an unlicensed, unregistered, uninsured car.
Nice. I mean, if you want to do it, right?
I guess so.
Chris Candido.
Yeah, I mean, I threw one up here about Charlie Weiss mostly because, it just makes me laugh when people, when sports guys want to get political, because they clearly have a, political bent in their life. So, somehow Charlie Weiss decided that, that Russia and that Vladimir Putin invading the Ukraine was a sign that socialism was winning, and he as a good American is against all kinds of socialism, i.e. Democrats. And I never tweet anything about politics, but today is an exception. As I watch Russia continue their invasion of Ukraine, I ask Americans that want socialism, are you watching? Do you want to be part of something like this? Okay. Thanks, Charlie. So you really have obviously have no idea what socialism is.
That's one.
You've watched way too much Newsmax to
That's
for your
two.
own good. Yeah.
If only he was able to watch tape the same way he watches Newsmax.
Yeah. And the other one, which is kind of scary, you guys probably know this guy, both former UFC heavyweight champion, and I think he was in the WWE for a while. Cain Velasquez.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, he was arrested on Monday for attempted murder. He shot somebody in the street. In Santa Clara, California. Yeah,
did you hear the details of it?
No, the story I got, motives and circumstances surrounding the incident were still under investigation. About what happened?
The motives that I heard, once again, shout out to TMZ, the alleged motive has to deal with child molestation.
Oh, Jesus.
So he was going after a potential person that may have molested a family member of his, and that was
that's probably a good reason to shoot somebody. I mean, you gotta shoot somebody.
Yeah, I'm going to say, I don't necessarily condone shooting, but I understand in that instance. So yeah.
But we're giving the sleeves to the Major League Baseball
definitely.
and the owners of Major League Baseball.
Well, there you go.
Oh, but before we move on, real quick, Coach, there was another piece of news that I completely forgot about that you might be intrigued to hear. I don't know if you heard about this yet, Coach. If I say these two names, you might know the direction I'm going into. Tony Khan, he made a purchase today.
Oh, was it Ring of Honor?
Ring of Honor. Yeah.
Well, I mean, good for him, I guess. Now he has another place to throw all the other people that he keeps paying for.
Hey, when you got too much water for your cup, what do? Get another cup.
Let it spill over.
Yeah, put them in another cup.
So let's talk about our picks for the week. And first, let's talk about our 10 picks from last week. First, we had...
Do we have to?
I'm glad you're following them closely. So first, we had the NBA games. The Jazz beat the Mavericks 114-109. Lou and I had that one correct. Then the Grizzlies beat the Bulls 116-110. D Nash, the only one with that correct. So basically, we split there, and I know we talked a lot during the show about the fact that D was on his island quite a lot.
Yeah.
Next was the Furman-Samford game. Pretty good game. Samford did win 83-75. D. Nash got that one correct. But Ohio State beat Illinois in another great game, 86-83. I was the only one with the Buckeyes, so I got that correct. Then we had Arkansas versus Kentucky. Arkansas wins 75-73. D, the only one with that correct. And D, also with his possible last and only one correct. Bryant beat Wagner 78-70. So he got that one on an island. After that, we had Baylor beat Kansas 80-70. Lou, the only one with Baylor. Sacred Heart, I guess JD and Turk pulled it out as Lou and I got that one correct. 80-68. Sacred Heart beat St. Francis. Green Bay's Phoenix destroyed IUPUI 67-41 in a pillow fight, our second pillow fight, and Lou the only one with Green Bay. And then we had the women's basketball game between Maryland and Indiana, which talk about a mollywhopping. 67-34? What? Maryland wins. The Terps win. Lou and I had that one correct. So again, those counting at home, Lou wins 5-4-4. The tiebreaker is what it came down to. Lou had Billy Horschel. He was even, tied at 16. And by the way, Lou, because even though it was the same best round, Horschel had 2 rounds of 68s. Where
I was wondering if that was going to be the tiebreaker of the tiebreaker.
Absolutely, because I had to find something. So he had 2 rounds that were better, and at that same low score. So you did get the tiebreaker correct for your first tiebreaker win on the season. Of course, not really mattering in this situation. I had Brooks Koepka, who did finish tied with Horschel even at 16th. But like I said, he only had 168, I believe, in the first round. So that did not take the tiebreaker overall for me. But then D. Nash had Christian Bezunthout. Is that how you say? I don't even know if that's how you say it. But he was tied for 25th at +1. So by one stroke.
Nice.
One stroke, D. Nash goes down this week. So now on the season, and this is where it gets a little scary because our numbers are a little lower now. And with the way we pick the next couple weeks with these conference tournaments and all, it usually drops quite a bit in our percentages. But D is still leading the way with 7 overall points. I have 6 to lose 3. D also has the highest percentage at 56.7% of his picks correct. Lou's got 53.3. I got 52.2. But
we didn't have any unanimous picks this week, right?
No unanimous picks.
No, we didn't.
And
I think the island pickers were the winners this week, right? Because D got 4 and I got 2, so 6 out of 10 times the guy on the island won, right?
Correct. So
that's funny.
Moving on. So what we're doing is I know there's a couple of these tournaments have already started, so obviously some of the lower teams are already out.
Yeah, I tried to go through and cross out teams that are out.
But I'll still mention them as I like to as I run through all the teams in the conferences. But basically we're picking all the conference tournaments that are going to end by next Tuesday, because also this is odd because next Wednesday is when we're doing our next show again. And that's actually, get ready for it, everybody, the food hot seat, come hungry. So,
Nice.
So anything that ended by the 8th on Tuesday, we were able to do those tournaments because they'd be over. Same rules apply as always. If you pick the winner, congratulations.
And that's because we're doing the show on Wednesday next week, right?
Right. And if we and again, this is where if all 3 teams go out in the quarterfinals, the lowest seeded team would win the tiebreaker or to get the win for us. Because that's the one thing you get. And that's the rule we've done always when we've done these conference tournaments. So it can pay to take a lower seed if they don't win the whole thing. So I'm going to go ahead and I did make a little sheet here that's not changing for some reason. Come on, go. Oh, it doesn't want
to. The tough one's going to be Atlantic Sun where you have the con for the divisions. Because you have 2 1s, 2 2s, 2 3s.
All right, so now I got the
would be
little sheet I made up. You can see all the conference logos on there for the conferences that we're picking today because they are the tournaments starting or that have started already. So our first one, and let's see, Lou, you got the win, so you're going to start us off. But we start off in the Atlantic Sun, which is the March 1st through March 8th at campus sites. This one has the number 1 seeded Liberty Flames in the East, and the number 1 in the West is the Jacksonville State Gamecocks. This one tournament has odd pairings because actually it's not even just West versus West, East versus East. Like the 1 seed is in one side of the bracket, like the first of the East is in one side of the bracket, but then the second of the West is in that same side of the bracket.
Yeah, that's how a lot of conferences do it now.
It's interesting.
Where if they have East and West, what they do is they have the 1 seed and the 2 seed from both conferences in the top half or in one half, and then the 1 and 2 from.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. So then the 2 seeds are the Jacksonville Dolphins and the Bellarmine Knights. The 3 seeds are the Florida Gulf Coast Eagles and the Central Arkansas Bears. The 4 seeds are the Kennesaw State Owls and the Lipscomb Bisons. The 5 seeds are the North Florida Osprey and the East Kentucky Colonels. And the 6 seeds are the Stetson Hatters and the North Alabama Lions.
So do you know who gets the bye in this situation here, Coach?
I'd have to have the bracket up.
Well, all I know for sure is that, because I looked up the games that have been played, I think just the 2-1s got the byes because...
just the 2-1s? So, yeah, that means that the 2...
Well, I don't actually know. I think the 2s all... Because with 6 teams, 12, 4 teams get a bye. So the 1s and the 2s got byes.
So that means the 3 plays the 6. So, like, the 3 East and the 6 West play each other and vice versa on the other side of the bracket.
I do know that both 5s and both 6s lost. I looked that up.
Gotcha.
So all 4 bottom teams are gone.
So all
but that means that like Kennesaw, Lipscomb, Florida Gulf Coast, and Central Arkansas all got wins already.
So don't pick an 11 and 19 team. Okay.
I'm trying to remember for my pick here. I'm trying to remember who screwed me because we picked a bunch of ASUN games this year. I don't really want to pick Liberty because they screwed me, but I can't remember between Jacksonville State who it was that kept screwing me.
I do think.
I think when in doubt, you go with those Cox, right? So give me Jacksonville State.
D.
Well, I'm not going to touch those Cox, and of course, like I always like to say, A-Sun, of course, is the other name that Old Dirty Bastard was no by. I'm going to take the Bellarmine Knights. There's an R in there.
Interesting.
Wide open for you, Coach.
Completely wide open.
I feel like you should take the Dolphins because you're a Dolphin guy, but
I should also take Florida Gulf Coast because.
Oh yeah, that's in your backyard, right?
Well, not really in my backyard. That's on the other side of the side of the state, but it is Dunk City.
It is Dunk City. I think their women's team has actually passed their men's team.
Oh wow.
But I also liked Liberty a lot this season. But do I think they run away with it? I'll probably pay for it. But I'll take the 1 seed here. Just give me Liberty. If they're open, I'll take them. All right, so D. The second pick comes from the Big South. So it started today. It goes through March 6th at Bojangles Coliseum in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Coach, can you give me like 2 minutes?
Sure.
My the batteries in my headsets just died.
Okay.
I can't hear anything.
Well, I mean, I can run through the names at least for the moment here. Like I said, it's at the Bojangles Coliseum in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yes.
Where's the Bojangles Coliseum located, D?
You mean where? I mean, it's in Charlotte.
I mean, I know it's in Charlotte, but it's not where. Is it where the Hornets play?
No, it's not. It's they actually have 2 arenas there in the city of Charlotte. They ended up building that second arena, if my memory serves me correctly, after they originally had the Hornets. But yeah, they had that arena there for a while, and they've been playing a lot of the collegiate tournaments that aren't like the ACC or whatever. I should say all of the major tournaments that they have play in Charlotte play in the Bojangles Coliseum, especially if you're looking to have smaller attendance.
Right.
But I went ahead and I peeked in at a couple of the games today in the Big South because, of course, there are 2 HBCUs in the Big South, primarily my alma mater of North Carolina A&T.
Who won?
I did watch. A&T did beat who did A&T beat?
Radford.
They beat Radford. Yeah, they held on to beat Radford. They took that way. Actually, both games went into overtime. But A&T held on to beat Radford, and Hampton fell to High Point.
And those that don't know are the other Big South teams. The one is the Longwood Lancers. The Winthrop Eagles are the 2. Gardner-Webb Runnin' Bulldogs are the 3. 4 is the USC Upstate Spartans. The UNC Asheville Bulldogs are the 5 seed. The Campbell Fighting Camels are 6. The High Point Panthers 7. You just mentioned Radford. They're the 8. The North Carolina Anti-Aggies are 9. Hampton 10. Presbyterian, the Blue Hose are 11. And the Charleston Southern Buccaneers are 12.
In a huge upset, Charleston Southern, who was 6-24, took down UNC Asheville tonight.
Oh, wow.
So the madness has begun.
The madness has begun.
6-2014.
Yeah.
Well, they were 5-24. That was their 6th win.
Oh, yeah. So 5-24. That's amazing.
Wow. So if we could actually legit have some madness here, and it's interesting because the lone loss in the conference for Longwood was by North Carolina A&T, who they will be facing in the next round. Of course, I could sit here and be a homer and take my Aggies. I really had it set up so that if I was third in this situation, I would take them because it would give me a reason to say, hey, all the higher seeds have been taken. So I had no other choice but to take my Aggies. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take them anyway. How about that? So we can come into this conference, snatch up the title and dip out of there on our way to the CAA. I'm taking North Carolina A&T.
Nice. I'm going to take a team that tends to make the tournament a good bit. So I'm going to go ahead and take number 2. Give me the Winthrop Eagles.
Yeah.
Lou?
I guess I'll take the number 1 seed, Hey, you know what? Screw that. Give me Gardner-Webb. Go for the 3 seed.
Wow, and those are the 3 teams I was looking at, too. Yeah.
I'm going with the coach rule about taking the lower seed. Avoid the 1 seeds.
Unless they win the whole thing.
Except for Gonzaga, because we're all. I mean, come on.
So
we're all taking.
The third pick is the Colonial Tournament, the CAA, where the Aggies will be heading soon enough.
Yeah. A&T and Hampton, yeah.
This is March 5th through March 8th at Entertainment and Sports Arena right here in Washington, D.C.
Is that what you're telling me? Is that I'll be able to see my Aggies play in a conference tournament and I don't have to go far?
Yep.
Oh, I'm already in. I'm sold. As much as I hated that move, I am sold by that one thing alone. I'm sold.
So the number 1 seed is the UNC Wilmington Seahawks. Number 2 is the Towson Tigers. 3 is the Hofstra Pride. 4 is the Delaware Blue Hens. 5 is the Drexel Dragons. 6 is the Charleston Cougars. The Elon Phoenix are the 7. The Tribe of William and Mary are 8. And the Northeastern Huskies are number 9. So I go first here. Let's see. I just went. I've already gone 1 and 2, but I'm gonna go 2 again. Give me Towson in this tournament. Lou?
Took my pick, coach.
That's what I do.
Well, that's mostly because my friends I go see every year, they both teach at Towson.
Well, obviously, I was taking. Obviously, I care about them more because I picked them.
That's why I was going to take them for my friends who I go see, because I don't think they've ever been in the tournament.
I don't think so either.
But I'll go against my better judgment, and I will take the Seahawks of UNC Wilmington. Then, if you're leaving them for me.
D.
Well, I just discovered that contract currently here in DC ends at this year, so it's not necessarily guaranteed that the contract, whether they will return, the CAA will return back to DC next year or not. So I'm already disappointed. With that said, I am going to take the number 3 Hofstra Pride.
Hofstra. All right. So then the 4th is the Missouri Valley Conference, a.k.a. the Valley. This is March 3rd through March 6th at the Enterprise Center in St. Louis, Missouri. The number 1 seed is Northern Iowa Panthers. The Missouri State Bears are the 2. Drake Bulldogs are the 3. The Loyola Chicago Ramblers are the 4. The Bradley Braves are the 5. The Southern Illinois Salukis are number 6. The Valparaiso Beacons are number 7. The Illinois State Redbirds are 8. Number 9 is the Indiana State Sycamores featuring Larry Bird. And number 10 is the Evansville Purple Aces. Lou.
Well, I'm going. I know they're the 4 seed, but how can you pick against Sister Jean? Give me the Ramblers. The Loyola Chicago.
D.
I know where my hotline bling. Hotline bling.
Taking Drake.
It can only mean one thing.
That you're taking Drake.
Yep. The Bulldogs.
Well, and I guess
wide open for you, Coach. You get 1 or 2.
Yeah, and I'm going to go, this is my 3rd one in a row. Give me a number 2 seed instead. No one's taking the 1. Give me the Missouri State Bears. So the 5th one, this is the NEC, the Northeastern Conference, which this started on actually February 28th. They're stretched out here and there because it's at campus sites for all of the games, but it's going through March 8th. You got the Bryant Bulldogs are the 1, Wagner Seahawks are 2, 3 is the LIU Sharks, 4 is the Mount St. Mary Mountaineers, number 5 is the St. Francis Terriers, 6 is the Sacred Heart Pioneers, St. Francis Red Flash, that's PA St. Francis, is the number 7, number 8 is the Fairleigh Dickinson Knights, and the Central Connecticut Blue Devils are the 9. D.
Didn't we just see
we just picked Bryant versus Wagner last week.
Yep, and Bryant lost too, right?
Bryant won. You were the only
won?
one to pick him, and Bryant took it, which is probably why they're the 1 seed, not the 2 seed.
And I'll be taking Bryant again. Let's go.
I'm interested to see
4 Bulldogs here.
Interested to see where Lou goes, because I'm going to take Wagner.
All right.
Retribution. And not like the crappy WWE
you're like
time.
you're like Mr. Number 2 tonight, Coach.
Well, you know that. Well, some nights I feel crappier than others.
I guess I'm going with the Sharks, man.
LIU, Long Island University. All right. So then the 6th pick of the week is the Ohio Valley Conference. That runs from today, March 2nd through March 5th at the Ford Center in Evansville, Indiana. Number 1 seeded is the Murray State Racers. The number 2 is the Belmont Bruins. 3 is the Morehead State Eagles. 4, Southeast Missouri State Red Hawks. 5 is the Tennessee State Tigers. 6 is the Austin Peay Governors. Go P. Number 7 is the Tennessee Tech Golden Eagles. And number 8 is the SIU Edwardsville Cougars. Obviously, there's only one actually ranked team who hasn't lost in this conference, and I'm really happy at this point that I'm getting the 6th. Thankfully for you guys, the 10th is not me first. But so yeah, I mean, I can't imagine the Racers not winning this. We see them in the tournament all the time. Obviously, Belmont we've seen in the tournament a lot too, so there's always a chance there. But yeah, I'm going to step away from the 2 seeds and sadly, maybe for the way we pick, take another 1 seed, unless they just roll like I hope they do. Give me Murray State. Lou.
Well, we're going to do our bubble watch coming up here, and Belmont is in the list. So my thought is they need this more. Murray State's getting in no matter what. They could lose their first game in this tournament. They're getting in the tournament. So Belmont needs it. Give me Belmont.
D.
Well, I already know that SIUE is no longer in. They were eliminated by Tennessee State earlier today. I am going to go with, though, since Lou, you took Belmont, right?
Yep.
And Coach, who did you take?
Murray State.
Murray State? Well, I'll go ahead and take Morehead State.
All right, so the 7th pick is the Southern Conference. This is March 4th through March 7th at Harrah's Cherokee Center in Asheville, North Carolina. The Mocs of Chattanooga are the 1 seed. The Furman Paladins are the 2. Samford Bulldogs are 3. The Wofford Terriers are the number 4. VMI Keydets are number 5. The UNC Greensboro Spartans are the 6. Number 7 is the Mercer Bears. 8, East Tennessee State Buccaneers. Number 9 is the Citadel Bulldogs. And number 10 is the Western Carolina Catamounts. Lou.
Yeah, there's a few of these conferences like the one Coach just picked with the number 1 seed. It's probably a little bit of a no-brainer. Give me the Mocs.
I don't want your life. All right, D.
So it's on me. You took the Mocs. I'll take Furman.
The Paladins.
Yep.
All right. You know what? Give me Wofford. We've seen them in the tournament a good bit.
We have.
So why not? All right. So our 8th pick is the Summit League. This is March 5th through March 8th at the Denny Sanford Premier Center in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. The number 1 seed is the South Dakota State Jackrabbits. 2 is North Dakota State Bison. The 3 is the Oral Roberts Golden Eagles. 4 is the Kansas City Roos. The South Dakota Coyotes are number 5. Western Illinois Leathernecks are the 6. Number 7 is the Denver Pioneers, and the Omaha Mavericks are the 8. D.
Oh, man. Let me go ahead and take the Jackrabbit. No, actually, you know what? I'm going to take the Kansas City Roos. How about that?
You're going Roos.
Taking the 4 seed.
I figured you were going to take the 1 seed here because, look, I took the 1 team already in Murray State who didn't lose a conference game.
Yep.
Jackrabbits haven't either. Give me South Dakota State. Nope. I may be taking too many high seeds, but I guess we'll see how these play out. Lou.
I guess if anybody's going to beat them, it's going to have to be North Dakota State. So give me North Dakota State.
All right. So then the 9th pick is the Sun Belt Conference. This is March 3rd through March 7th at the Pensacola Bay Center in Pensacola, Florida. The number 1 seed is the Texas State Bobcats. The Appalachian State Mountaineers are the 2. The 3 is the Georgia State Panthers. 4 is the Troy Trojans. 5 is the Jaguars of South Alabama. The Red Wolves of Arkansas State is the 6. Coastal Carolina's Chanticleers are the 7. Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns are the 8. The UT Arlington Mavericks are number 9. The Georgia State Eagles are the 10. The 11 is the Louisiana Monroe Warhawks, and the Little Rock Trojans are the 12. I go first. Tell you what, this conference is definitely up in the air. I know the Texas State's number 1, but I actually don't think they end up winning this. I'm actually going to go down the list a bit here. Here I'm going to go with the give me the 4 seed. Give me the Troy Trojans. Lou.
Oh, I'll happily take Texas State this one then.
D.
Well, fine. I'll take the 2 seed. I'll take App State.
All right. And with having no idea where Lou's going to go in the next pick, we go to the West Coast Conference, which, by the way, their W looks a whole lot like the WCW W, by the way. So the
old school or new school?
Old school.
Ah, yes.
So the West Coast Conference's tournament is March 3rd through March 8th at Orleans Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. The 1 seed is the Gonzaga Bulldogs. The number 2 seed is the St. Mary's Gales. 3 is the Santa Clara Broncos. 4 is the San Francisco Dons. 5 is BYU's Cougars. The Pilots of Portland are 6. The Toreros of San Diego are number 7. Loyola Marymount Lions are 8. Number 9 seed is Pacific Tigers. And number 10 is the Pepperdine Waves. Lou, where are you going?
Well, before I tell you, I'm obviously going, but the top 2 seeds are in. They're already they're not. Doesn't matter what happens to Gonzaga or St. Mary's. I would say San Francisco's got a very good chance. I almost put them in our hot seat tonight, but I thought they were probably safe, but maybe they're not. BYU is in our hot seat tonight as a bubble team, and Santa Clara is probably on the outside looking in. They did not quite make our bubble list, but they probably have an outside shot. They're probably the team that really needs to impress. But there are 5 very good teams in this conference, 4 of which are probably very much in the conversation for making the tournament. So this is probably the best year the West Coast Conference has had in quite a long time. So this should be a very good conference tournament. I will take Gonzaga. They just lost to St. Mary's the other night when, I don't know if you guys saw that, 7 the top 7 teams in the country all lost the other day, I think, or
Yeah, it was Sunday, I think it was.
on Saturday, between Saturday. Was it all on Saturday, or was some of it was one of the games on Sunday?
God,
But
it may have all been Saturday.
right, because Gonzaga lost to St. Mary's. I know TCU beat Kentucky, lost to Arkansas. Arizona lost to like Colorado. I don't remember all of the losses, but it was an amazing day of college basketball, and I just like Gonzaga. If they just lost to St. Mary's, probably if they get them in the finals, they'll have a chance to beat them. But I wouldn't overlook either Santa Clara, San Francisco, or BYU. All those teams could make a run in this tournament. But I'll take Gonzaga just because it's easy.
D.
Yeah, Luke, to answer your question, Michigan State over Purdue, Arkansas over Kentucky, Tennessee over Auburn, and Colorado.
Who did TCU beat?
Texas Tech, and
Texas
Colorado Tech over Arizona, and of course, like you just said, Baylor over Kansas, and of course, St. Mary's over Gonzaga.
I didn't have Baylor over Kansas, but that was one of our picks because Baylor was like 10th and Kansas was like 4th or something.
It was something like that, yeah.
Yep.
So you took Gonzaga. I'm going to take the team that beat Gonzaga just this past weekend. I'm going to take St. Mary's.
So that means, do I go Santa Clara? Do I go San Francisco? Is Bill Russell playing by any chance?
They got a good team this year, Coach.
I know. I took them a few
Russell.
weeks ago, and they lost for me in whatever that pick was.
Maybe it's William and Russell from Fat Albert's kids. Yeah.
Why not? Give me San Francisco. All right, so then our tiebreaker, we're going to the Horizon League for this one. In the Horizon League, this started March 1st, goes through March 8th, also at campus sites until the last 2 rounds. The final 2, the semifinals and the finals, get played at Indiana Farmers Coliseum in Indianapolis, Indiana. And you've got the number 1 Cleveland State Vikings, number 2 Purdue Fort Wayne Mastodons, number 3 the Northern Kentucky Norse. The Wright State Raiders are the 4. The Oakland Golden Grizzlies are number 5. Number 6 is the Detroit Mercy Titans. Number 7 is the Youngstown State Penguins. The UIC Flames are 8. 9 is Milwaukee's Panthers. The Robert Morris Colonials are 10. Green Bay Phoenix 11. And the IUPUI Jaguars are the 12. D.
Wow, I'm going to bust it wide open for you guys. I'm going to take the number 4 seed State Raiders.
Let's see. Yeah, I mean, I put this one down here because I kind of felt like there's a lot of possibilities to happen here. I mean, all top 7 teams are 500 or better, over 500 in conference play. Almost want to go lower, but you know what? I'll take a team we've seen a few times there in the tournament too. Maybe they'll make a little run. I'm going to go down to the 3 seed. Give me Northern Kentucky, the Norse. Lou.
Well, I'm going to go boring on this mostly because of nostalgia reasons. Anybody who's a Bobby Knight hater will remember the year that Cleveland State, led by Kenny the Mouse McFadden. I want to say this was like, gosh, this must be like 1988. Cleveland State pulled off it was like a 3-14 game. Indiana was like a 3 seed. But I'll always remember the name Kenny the Mouse McFadden. I mean, Kenny's literally probably like 47 years old now. But give me Cleveland State because of the mouse.
Oh, if it was 88, Lou, I'm going to say that he's about maybe 57.
I think that was
So
I will use the Google machine and figure that out.
there you go.
Yeah.
Those are our 10 picks for the week. We are SLZE Sports, SLZEsports.com. Likes on Facebook, plus on Twitter at SLZE Sports every Tuesday night, 9 p.m. right here on Facebook Live. Check us out. And without further ado, it's time for Sweet Lou to take us to the hot seat.
1986, D. March 14th. March 14th, 1986. It was a 3-14 game.
So yeah, he's most definitely in his 50s.
Right, because like I graduated from high school that year, so I was only 18, so he was probably 20, and I'm 53. So yeah, he's like 55 years old. All right, so this is our annual. Well, I don't know if it's annual. A lot of years we do an NCAA like top 16 teams. The committee releases their pre-tournament, like a month before Selection Sunday. They do a top 16 teams, and we kind of hash that one out. And then sometimes before the tournament, we do a bubble watch. I figured it was more fun to do bubble watch this year, since we're like 13 days since they released that 16, and we're today is the 2nd of March, right? And Selection Sunday is the 13th, so we are 11 days from Selection Sunday. So I don't know if Coach has the thing ready to put up.
It's up.
It's up. I think I'm way behind on my my stream on I watch off air.
It's just you.
Okay. So I gave you guys 16 teams, and here they are in alphabetical order. We start with, I think we already mentioned them during our picks tonight, the Belmont Bruins out of the Ohio Valley Conference. I think that's the only Ohio Valley Conference team I picked. We also just mentioned the Brigham Young Cougars out of the West Coast Conference. And yeah, they are the only West Coast Conference team we're going to talk about among these 16. The Dayton Flyers. I think we have 3 Atlantic 10. The Atlantic 10 tournament isn't until next week. Hopefully that'll be in our picks next week. But 3 teams out of the A10 we're going to talk about tonight. The SEC might be the best conference in the country, with teams like Arkansas, Alabama, Kentucky, Tennessee, all probably comfortably in the field of 68, but the Florida Gators are firmly in that bubble range. So we would talk about the Florida Gators, Coach's favorite team tonight. Indiana Hoosiers. There's a few Big Ten teams in here. The Big Ten also probably the second strongest team in our Big Ten, Big 12, all having great years. But we're going to talk about a couple of Big Ten schools tonight. And the first is the Indiana Hoosiers. We've talked about 2 American Athletic Conference teams tonight. The Memphis Tigers are definitely in bubble territory. 2 teams, or no, I think we got 3 teams from the ACC in here tonight. The Miami Hurricanes are one of them. Michigan Wolverines from the Big Ten, another ACC team. The North Carolina Tar Heels, definitely first year under head coach Hubert Davis. Definitely had a couple of big wins, but they also don't have a lot of great wins. And some bad losses. Notre Dame Fighting Irish from the ACC. Basically, is that most people who follow ACC basketball will know really only Duke is firmly in this tournament. I did not put Wake in here. I kind of think Wake is probably safe. The other thing about this is a hard tournament. I think this year is going to be tough to do your brackets. We'll talk about the brackets in 2 weeks from yesterday. But I also think this was a hard bubble. I kind of felt like I could have probably done 20 teams, or maybe even 22 teams. Easily could have done 20, but I like to do 16. Probably could have done 20. Teams like Wake could have been in here. A couple others, not St. Mary's, San Francisco probably could have been in here. I didn't put that. I thought they were probably closer to safe. But from the Pac-12, I think it's the only Pac-12 team in here in Oregon. Obviously, UCLA, Arizona, USC are safely in. I don't really think there are any other big Pac-12 teams that are out. Oregon's on the bubble. The Rutgers Scarlet Knights, I have in here now. They had a huge win tonight. Just before we went on the air tonight, they beat Indiana on the road. That is not included in what the guys have. Just as a note, everything you guys are going to see tonight that I sent the guys and the resumes you guys are going to see in front of you are for everything ended Sunday night. I froze everything in time after the games on Sunday. All the metrics that I sent the guys that are part of the hot seat tonight are as of the end of the day on Sunday, February 27th.
Gotcha.
But Rutgers did have a big win tonight. The second team from the American Athletic besides Memphis is the SMU Mustangs. Then we have 2 more teams from the Atlantic 10, the St. Bonaventure Bonnies, Virginia Commonwealth Rams. Then squeezed in between them, the only team from Conference USA is the UAB Blazers. There's 3 A10 teams. I think Davidson is probably the only safe team from the A10. I'm trying to think who is safe from the comments you were saying. It's not hitting me off the top of my head. But these are the 16 teams. But anybody who's watched us do these things before, we do blind resumes. So on the next page, you'll see the things that we're going to talk about, the metrics and the information I gave to the fellas to look at. NET. So for years, everybody's talking about RPI, which was some rating percentage index or something that nobody really understood the formula of. The NCAA got rid of that a few years ago. They came out with the NET. This really is concentrated around every win and loss in your record is categorized as a quad 1, 2, 3, or 4. This has to do with where the team you played is ranked. And it also has to do with whether or not it was at a neutral site, at a home, or a road. And then your NET comes out of that. Your ranking in evaluation on the weight of the wins and losses, both what quadrant they were in. And the formula is on the screen now. Where the quad 1 game, if the game was against a team ranked, if it's an away game, it could be somebody in the top 75 would count as a quad 1 game. And you'll see when we get to the resumes, I've given everybody's net ranking. I've given everybody's quad 1 win-loss record in 1 through 4. BPI is a metric that ESPN has come up with. It's their basketball power index. And again, they use a different rating system that has to do with not just wins and losses, but the strength of your win and your loss. Ken Pom is another very popular one with a lot of people. Ken Pomeroy is a statistician, made quite a living doing sports stats. And he talks about offensive and defensive efficiency. He literally rates every possession that a team has and rates how good you are on offense and how good a team you are on defense. And he uses those metrics. And not only do I give everybody's Ken Pom rating, he ranks every team in Division I. I've also given everybody's offensive and defensive efficiencies. And then finally, strength of schedule. Actually, I found these on the page where ESPN gives the BPI. They also give strength of schedule rankings. Mm-hmm. And I think that's it. I also I give the fellows what each team's record is in their last 12 games to see how they're playing recently. And I try to give a little snapshot of the best wins they've had on the season and the best losses in terms of who are the best teams they've lost to. But if we go to the first page, we'll get an idea of what these little resumes look like. I know it's probably not the easiest thing to read. It's a lot of information in one page. I like to show these things to Mrs. Sweet Lou and her head explodes because she is a professional PowerPoint maker. And she's like, these are the worst things I've ever seen in my life. I would never use these professionally. And I'm like, well, yeah, they work for us.
As in, we're not very professional.
Well, then I show her coaches quarterback thing, and she's like, "Oh my god."
Well, but if you're talking about that quarterback list, though, that's not a PowerPoint.
I know it's an Excel, and it's even and I'm like, that's even harder to read.
But that's different. My PowerPoints never look like that.
No, but I will admit these things are not easy to read. I try to use bold as much as I can, but obviously for Team Alpha here, I give you their record. That's a pretty big type. You can tell they're 20. Again, these are as of Sunday evening. And then their net ranking is 54, their BPI is 48, their Ken Pom's 54, and then their strength of schedule. And then it gives you an idea. They've only played 3 games that qualified as quad 1, but they won 2 of them. Obviously, a big thing people want to look for is you don't want to have any bad losses. So you don't want to see any 2 or 3 losses down in quad 4. What the heck is happening there? And I mean, the guys probably have different ways of ranking. Maybe you guys forgive 1 loss in quad 4 or 1 loss in quad 3, but if a team has several in those categories down there, you probably mark them down. I don't know what you guys take overall record. A team like Delta has 12 losses on the season, but they're 5-5 in quad 1, which means they've clearly played a lot of games. Their strength of schedule is at 32, so clearly they play a lot of tough games compared to a team like Alpha that only played 3, but obviously their strength of schedule is very different. So they probably play in a conference that doesn't offer them as much hard games. So there we go. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to already make your lists. I tried to be as neutral as I could. I tried to put my answer sheet to the side, and I tried to just I printed the resumes out myself, and I tried to make a 1 through 16 list myself. And then I went back and looked and see who was who, because I kind of forget. I randomly assign, I have the alphabetical list, and then I randomly assign alpha through pi to the names, so they're obviously in no particular order as much as I can, and come up with a list. And the idea is for the guys to pick, I don't know if you guys just picked 8 in and 8 out, or if you actually did a 1 through 16, or if you did a 1 through 8, and then kind of everybody who's crap, or how you did your rankings.
I did a 1 through 16. I actually did it this year, and
awesome.
And I'm pretty sure it's going to be very different. Well, probably very different from what D has.
Well, I mean, I didn't necessarily do a 1 through 8, but I did a group of 4, 4, 4, and 4.
That's good. No, that works, because then there's 4 top teams. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of what you do. Like when I try to figure out which 16 teams I'm going to use, I use about 4 or 5 different websites, and a lot of these sites, they'll do last 4 buys, meaning the teams that don't have to play in the play-in games, and they do the last 4 in. And remember, now when we have 68 teams in the tournament, there are 4 play-in games. Now, 2 of those play-in games are like 16 seeds. Those are automatic qualifiers that come from conferences that they believe are very weak. Unfortunately, there are a lot of times the HBCU conferences like the SWAC and the MEAC.
Yeah.
But then there also are 2 play-in games that are teams that are what's not automatic qualifiers, but they are at-large teams. And those are the teams like these. These are the last 4 in. And then you can look at the seeds, because those are usually like 12 seeds. So then you look at the 4 11 seeds, and you know who the last 4 teams that probably got in without. Those are quote unquote the last 4 buys. And then a lot of these sites also will have like first 4 out, next 4 out. So that's kind of, you get an idea who the 16 teams. It's kind of what I base this on. So that's actually perfect, D, that you have kind of your first 4 buys, first 4 last 4 in, first 4 out, next 4 out.
But wait a minute, correction, Lou. It's a grouping of 4 for the 4 out. So the 4 worst is my grouping of 4, and then I have 4 groupings of 3.
Well, that's harder, because then you'd have 12. Well, because the only thing about that is that would be 6.
So it's
6 that are definitely in.
Yeah, 6 that are definitely in, and then
those...
it's a grouping of 3 that I'm debating, and I think I have the 2 out of those.
That last 3 is definitely out, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we can just dump those in with the 4 that are definitely out. But
of course.
Why don't you give me yours, D, first? Because yours sounds very complicated, and then I'll get coaches, which sounds much easier.
All right. What do you want me to start?
Start with your top 3.
My top 3, in no particular order: Zeta, Pi, and Delta.
Zeta?
Yes.
You said Pi, P-I?
Yes.
And you said what, Delta?
Delta, yeah.
These are your top 3.
Yeah.
Then your next 3?
Iota, Eta, and Gamma.
Okay, so those 6 are definitely in.
Those 6 are definitely in, and I'm always up for debate for who can be changed where. But yeah, those are most definitely guys that are in.
Okay, so then your middle.
So that on the bubble grouping, I have Kappa, Epsilon, and Lambda.
Kappa, Epsilon, and Lambda.
And just missing that group is Theta, but Xi, Nu, Beta, Alpha, Mu, and
so you basically you kind of have 4 on the bubble, and 2 of those that have to get in. And then completely out are who?
What's that? Xi, Nu,
Mu,
Nu. Well, Nu and Mu. Actually,
it's Mu, by the way.
Nu. Yep. Mu,
Beta,
Mu.
Alpha, and Omicron.
Okay. That works because you basically have 6 that are definitely top 3, next like 4, 5, and 6. And then you have 7, 8, 9, and 10, 2 in, 2 out.
Yeah.
All right, Coach. Why don't you give me your 1 through?
My 1 through.
Yep.
All right. My number 1. This is one that's definitely different from what D said. My number 1 is actually Team Epsilon. I got Team Epsilon as my 1.
Yep.
Okay.
My 2 is Team. Where is it? Team Kappa. Number 3 is on the other page. Number 3 is Team Pi. Number 4 is Theta. Number 5 is Mu. Number
Mu, right?
Correct. M as in Mary.
Yep.
Mu.
Okay.
Number 6 is Omicron. Number 7 is Nu. Number 8 is Eta. Number 9 is Alpha. Number 10 is Xi, XI.
Yep.
Number 11 is Delta. Number 12 is Gamma. Number 13 is Zeta. Number 14 is Beta. Number 15 is Lambda. And number 16 is Iota.
Wow.
Yeah, interesting. So it's like half of his that he has in is half that I have out. And
Well, it's the
vice
same
versa.
because I'll give you mine because I said I did mine too.
Okay.
So the top of mine is a little more similar to Coach's, but not absolutely. I started with Theta, number 1, which is 4 on Coach's, and it's your 10th team. I had Zeta number 2, which is Coach's 13, and it's in D's top 3. So D and I agree on that. 3, I have Kappa, which is Coach's 2, and it's D's one. It's D's. I don't know. It's like D's like 7th team. I had Epsilon, which is Coach's 1. D's like 8. Then I had Omicron, which is like the last team on D's list, and Coach's 6. So Coach and I are pretty in line there. 6, I had Lambda. So I said I had Zeta 2nd, right?
Not sure.
Yeah, I had Zeta 2nd, who was D's top team, but Coach has him 13th. Which is pretty, D and I are kind of, but then Lambda, I don't think either of you guys liked Lambda. D had Lambda just on the outside looking in. Coach has him 15th.
Yeah.
That might be a good one to look at. Lambda. They don't have a lot of quad 1 wins. They're 2-8 in quad 1. They're pretty decent, across the board.
I mean, I'll say right off the bat, the first thing for me, not first thing, but one of the top things for me is always to look at that Q4, and if they have a loss in the Q4, that's going to hurt them immediately when I'm doing this.
Okay.
And that's
I understand.
And that's why Iota was the bottom. I mean, they had 3 losses in that spot.
They have 3 losses. Yeah, they have. Yeah, Iota's a funny team because they seem to have really good. Well, not really good, but compared to some teams, they have pretty good. The 3 major metrics.
Oh yeah.
Like across the way, those are all much better than some teams.
Their strength of schedule is pretty poor.
Strength of schedule is pretty poor.
And the fact that they lost 3 games in Q4 with that strength of schedule, I'm like, if your strength of schedule is not that good, you're a tournament team, or trying to be a tournament team, you shouldn't be losing all those Q4 games.
Right.
Agreed.
Yeah, I had them 7th, and D has them like 4th.
Yeah.
But I think their number, I think that 42 BPIs, it really like strengthens them up. But they clearly don't play a very good strength of schedule, only having 4 Q1 games to begin with. All right, who else? So that was Iota 7th. Then I have Beta 8th, which Coach has 14th and D has out. So I'm the only one that likes Beta even remotely. What did I like about Beta? Well, they have one Q4, one Q3 loss. They were 9-3 in their last, which I kind of liked. Yeah, I think it was the 47-43, which, very few teams have anything in the 30s. And a lot of teams have numbers in the 50s and 60s.
Mm-hmm. So I will say, I think I changed this parts of what I do every time. Like, I always look at that Q4 to begin with, because again, I feel like tournament teams shouldn't be losing to the Q4 teams. But like the last 12, I think I looked at harder last time than I did this time.
Yeah, there's only a few teams that have a bad. Some teams, but then you also have to remember, like, the teams in the better conferences have harder, like a team like which one is it? Like Kappa, like they're 7-5, but their strength of schedule is 9, so they clearly are playing really tough teams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But because I have Kappa 3rd, Coach has them 2nd,
mm-hmm.
and D has them 7th.
Yeah, like I said, my top 8 is very easily rearrangeable. The reason why I have them in that actual order was more so because of the amount of combined quad 1 and 2 victories that they have.
So one I want to talk about is Pi, because for some reason I have Pi 10th.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I have Pi 10th because all their rankings are in the 60s.
Yeah.
Again, with them,
they have 4. But the 4 wins is big in quad 1,
and they've only lost 1 in quad 1, which was big for me. I know quad 2 could look better.
But those are their everyday games.
But they do also have the best offense overall out of all these teams.
Oh, that 19, yeah. Yeah, there's one team with some crazy, like, 9th in defense, but they were like 200 and something in offense.
The 9th and 104th?
No, somebody's 9th in defense, but they're like, 5th in defense. Zai is 5th in defensive efficiency, but they're 253rd in offense. Like, that is one team that couldn't shoot, they couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat, but they clearly stopped everybody. That is an old school team right there. I don't know. I don't think any of us have Zai. Like, I have Zai 10th, Coach has Zai 11th, and D has Zai out. So none of us like Zai being a tournament team, but that did strike me. Like, there were very few single-digit anythings in the efficiencies.
Mm-hmm.
But to be 9th, to be 5th in defense in the country. That makes sense. I'm looking at who it is. I'll tell you all that later, but none of us have them in. Well, I wonder if we can probably get some consensus on teams that are out. Well, another one was New seemed to be I have New last. D has them out, and Coach has New 7th. NU. New.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So let's look at New for a second.
They
have some of the worst ranking numbers.
The rankings aren't sexy, but again, they at least didn't lose a Q4, which bumped them against. For me, bumps them over some that did lose Q4s. And truthfully, for a team that low, their being Q1 at 500 is still better than a lot of the other teams on here, being 3-3 in that spot. And again, much like we said with the last couple of teams we talked about, anyways, Q2 could have been a little better, but it was still at least 3-3. There were 500 in the 2 biggest quadrants without a losing record in any of them.
Yeah. I'm not exactly sure until I look who this team is, but like, I looked at those wins, like almost everything you see in the wins and losses are Q1 games. Very few teams, because if anybody had almost everybody has at least 2 wins in Q1. I think there's like one team that only has, or 2 teams that only have 1, which means I had to search for a second, like a Q2 win to put in their wins. Mm-hmm. So then they have 3, but the 2 games I chose to put in there are both from November, and they're neutral site games, which neutral site means I think you can be a top 50 team. because like Boise and Marquette are obviously, I don't think either of them are tournament teams, as far as I know. I guess maybe that's why I didn't think much of them. And then the numbers, yeah, those are some of the lowest numbers in the group. I think that's why I put them so low. Yeah, another one like D, you have Delta 3rd. I have Delta 15th, and Coach has Delta, I think, definitely out, right? You have Delta 11th.
All over the place.
Yeah, because Delta has a quad 4 loss or two, right?
They have one quad 4 loss.
Yeah, it's those.
Just one.
Because they have a combined 8 quad 1 and 2 wins.
I mean, again,
And
Lou,
that was one.
and not to mention the 121st offense too didn't help. But again, yeah, I looked at the quad.
They have a tremendous strength of schedule. I mean, obviously, I can tell. I mean, I can guess who they are. All their wins and losses are Big Ten games, so it's one of those 3 Big Ten schools. And it's not Michigan because one of their games, so it's either Indiana or Rutgers.
But that's great that you have 5 quad 1 wins. That's amazing. But what's with the 1 Q4 loss, dude? Come on.
Any given Saturday, man.
Yeah, I guess when I look at bubble teams, I guess I forgive one. I mean, the 3, Zeta with the 3 is pretty unforgivable. But
I don't forgive one.
One, everybody has a bad day. If you have a crooked number in 1 and 3 and 4, I guess I look at that. Like Iota has a 3, Zeta has a 3. Those are pretty bad.
Which
I think the ones I forgive. But in Q4, Pi has 3 Q3 losses. Yeah, Pi's a team that's all over the place. A spectacular Q1 record at 4-1, one of the best in the group. But then they're 7-3 in Q3. Like, what is up with that? That's crazy. I'm trying to think who they are because there's 3 ACC teams in here, so they're clearly one of them. Because I feel like Pi's kind of all over the place. Coach has him 3rd, D has him 2nd, and I had him 10th.
By the way, Lou, Florida State just pulled off another upset.
Nice.
They beat Notre Dame tonight.
That's good. And that, I do. Notre Dame is in this group because I started looking at things like on Monday evening, Tuesday morning, Notre Dame was like more safe and not in.
Okay.
That might be Notre Dame. That Pi is Pi Notre Dame. I'm trying to think of how we should. Since they're so old, usually we have some kind of consensus, and I can make but I don't know if we have any kind of consensus of.
I think we have at least half that are consensuses, and the other.
I don't know, like. Really? Because I don't.
Well, not necessarily.
Well, you can have more consensus with you two. I probably shouldn't get a vote.
No, I was going to say not necessarily consensuses in terms of whether or not where their spot is, but the fact that they're
just in and out.
Yeah,
but I was like looking like D has Xi, Mu, Nu, Beta, Alpha, Omicron out. Coach has Alpha. Okay, so you both have Alpha out. I had Alpha out, so Alpha's out.
Bye.
And I can tell you, since we're out, that is the UAB Blazers.
All right.
Oh.
Which is probably, true. I think they barely made it. That was actually the last team I decided I was going to do San Diego State, and I decided San Diego State was probably safe, which now I don't think they are. We probably should have looked at their resume, and I put UAB in, so that's not surprising. Who else? No. Coach has New in. Beta
is out for me.
Yep, Beta's out for both of you. So Beta is out, and Beta is the SMU Mustangs.
Okay.
So they're both out. Everybody has Xi out. And Xi is VCU. So that's the team with the amazing, horrible offense and amazing defense. That's with the 240, what was it? It's some crazy. 253rd offense, but the 5th defense in the country. That is the Rams of Virginia Commonwealth. So they will need to make a run in the A10 tournament. Who else? don't feel like there's anybody else that's yeah. D, you kind of have Lambda right on the edge, right?
I had Lambda on the cusp. Before doing the show, I had them ninth, but I can argue they can be argued into my top 8, and I can eliminate someone else. So, Coach, where do you have Lambda?
Coach has them 15th.
15th, so they're out. There you go.
All right, so Lambda is out. And Lambda, Coach, you'll be happy about this.
Is it Florida?
It is the Florida Gators. I had Florida 6th, but...
Which is funny because with the best wins, losses, and stuff, you might have known, but I didn't look at those a whole lot when I was doing everything. I had no idea that was actually them. So, awesome.
Which the funny thing about them is, I mean, they only have one quad 4 loss. They're 5, and they're 12-1 in their Q4 and 5, or 3 and 4. There's no quad 5, 3 and 4. But okay, well, that's 4 teams that are definitely out. Let's see what teams. There must be at least 2 or 3 teams that we can definitely put in.
Yeah,
that are on both of your lists. Well, Kappa, I think Kappa and Pi.
Kappa and Pi are both they're both on mine. Yeah.
Yeah, they're 2 and 3 for me.
Yep. So that's Kappa is, I believe that's the Michigan Wolverines, which I also that's another team that almost is safe. Pi is, let's see. Oh, that's the Miami Hurricanes. We have an ACC team in. I think Ada is 8th on yours, and they're like 5th on yours, D.
Yeah.
Ada. So that's a team that we probably can put in. I mean, I know they're not tops on either end, but it's a team you agree on. That's actually the Oregon Ducks.
Okay. At least we get some crazy unis in our tourney.
Only if we could get their floor, too.
Well, at D, I think you have Epsilon literally 8th.
I do.
Coach has them 1, so.
Okay.
We're searching to get something that's an agreement here. So Epsilon is the Indiana Hoosiers.
Okay.
Hoosier Daddy.
Okay, so
now start going down Coach's grouping, and I'll start to figure out where I have them on mine. And
well, he has we try to the ones we've done. He has Theta, and you have Theta like 10th.
Yeah.
And he has Theta 4th.
Okay.
I had Theta 1st.
Let me do this. Have me some notes.
No tests.
Yes. So you had, okay. And who else does Coach have that's in?
He has both Moo and New, and you had them both in your out.
Uh-huh.
And I will say I have Moo and New both at 14 and 16, so I was not high on Moo and New.
Mm-hmm. And then there was one more that he has in that I might not have in.
Omicron.
Omicron was in my basement.
Right. I had Omicron 5th, so me and Coach agree on Omicron.
And who were the ones that we both agreed on?
You guys agreed on Kappa, Pi, Eta, and Epsilon being in. You guys agreed on Alpha, Beta, Xi, and Lambda being out.
Which ones that are out again?
Alpha, Beta, and then Lambda, and then Xi, which is almost near the end.
All right. So I see which ones we have out and which ones we have in. All right.
Now, I'm trying to find something that is somewhat agreeable. Coach has Delta and Gamma 11 and 12. You have Delta and Gamma fairly high on your list. Do I have Gamma? Oh, I have Gamma. I think I have Gamma like 11th.
All right, we could do this like what Major League Baseball should be doing.
And then you have Zeta first. I have Zeta second. Coach has Zeta 13th. Where's Zeta?
Q4 loss. That's what did it.
The one Q4 loss?
Yeah, and then they were 1-7 in Q1. I mean,
but they're 7-0 in Q2. That doesn't no losses in Q2. Doesn't float your boat at all.
Ooh, that could actually move them down a little bit in mine. You said that they were 1-7 in Q1.
Yeah, they have one bad loss. They have no losses in Q3. No losses in. Q2 and Q3 they're undefeated.
I understand, but they have one bad loss, and overall, I know Q2 is solid, but they only have one really good win.
Right, which is the Michigan win, I believe.
Yeah, and they're 1-7 in Q1, right?
Correct.
Yeah, yes. I could dip them down a little bit further than most definitely further than one. Where do you have Delta, Coach?
I had Delta
11.
You have Delta 11. So you have Delta 11. You have Iota where?
Iota is 16. It's the bottom.
All right.
But Iota's got those 3 Q4 losses.
And then Gamma?
Gamma I had at 12th.
All right. Man. Yeah, not only did you have them low, you had them low. All right.
Did you seriously have Iota higher?
Yeah,
he has Iota and Gamma 4. In his 4 and 6. He has Zeta first.
Iota had 3 Q4 losses. 3.
Yeah. The thing about Zeta is they are the highest BPI in the entire 16 teams.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they are the second highest net. No, Kappa's a little higher. Kappa's the only team with higher metrics than Zeta. They're the second highest
in BPI.
Like net BPI and KenPom. Zeta is basically second of all the teams we have here. I think that's why I have Zeta so high.
And that's probably why I have Zeta so high as well.
I realize they don't have many Q1 wins. But
all right,
Coach, they're literally 20 to 25 spots higher. They're 40 spots higher in KenPom than Moo. And New. New they're 30 spots. They're 39 spots higher in BPI. They're 40 spots higher in KenPom. They're 39 spots higher in net than New.
Sure, because I'm guessing they're a bigger conference too. But
yeah, but net has to do with your Q. Net has nothing to do with your strength of schedule. BPI has something to do with strength of schedule. Net has little or nothing to do with strength of schedule. It has to do with those quads.
And where'd you have Theta, Mu, and Omicron?
I think they're so high in the net because they're undefeated in Q2.
Theta is 4. New is 7. What was the other one?
Mu and Omicron.
MU
is
5. Number 5, and Omicron is 6.
Yeah, because we've settled on 8 teams, and we have 8 teams that we're talking about. We're talking about
what were the 4 teams that were in?
Kappa, Pi, Eta, and Epsilon. So your top 3, Coach, and your 8th team, and we have D's 2, 3, 5, and 8.
So, Coach, I'll be willing to trade your 4 and 5 for my 1 and 3.
What's your 1 and 3?
My 1 and 3 is. God, is that? Man, I can't even see it now. Let me do that. My 1 is Zeta, and my 3 is Delta.
Yeah, I can do that. I was gonna say, as long as it's not Iota, I can't let Iota.
You're not letting Iota in.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Y'all can tolerate Iota and Gamma not getting in.
So Iota and Gamma are out, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And did we agree on putting 2 teams in because of that, or
Yeah, Theta and Mu.
Theta and Mu?
Right.
Yeah.
So, Coach, you've gotten your top 5.
Did I?
Yes.
Yeah.
So nobody out of Coach's top 8 have gotten. Nothing out of your top 8 has gotten in yet, Coach. So the teams that Theta and Mu that are in are
what was that called?
Theta is the Memphis Tigers.
Okay.
And Mu is the Belmont Bruins.
No, I
And
think
the 2 teams that were out are Iota, which is the Dayton Flyers, which is probably true. That's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And Gamma is BYU, which also is probably, unless they make a nice run, is probably also true. So, as far as I know, we're still dealing with New, Omicron, Zeta, and Delta. Is that right? Are those the 4 teams we're fighting over?
Because I thought we already got our 8.
Yeah, I thought we just made the trade.
No, you have 6. You put Theta and Mu in. You put Iota and Gamma out.
I think wasn't the trade. You were taking.
The only ones I wrote down that were out were Iota and Gamma, and in were Theta and Mu.
D, the trade you wanted was Theta and Mu for your. Because I think Theta and Mu are out.
Those were yours, Coach. So what 2 teams of D's got in? Zeta and somebody else?
Was it Zeta and Delta, D?
I was thinking Zeta and Delta, yeah.
Yeah, I think Mu,
okay.
I think
okay. That makes sense.
I think Mu and Theta were out.
No, those are your 2 teams, Coach.
No, I wanted Theta and Mu in. See, that's okay. I worded that incorrectly. What I should have said was we take 2 of Coach's and 2 of mine, and the 2 that I was thinking was Zeta and
your top 2 that were left, Coach, were Theta and Mu.
Yeah, and I want to bring them in.
Okay.
And then D's top 2 that were left were Zeta and Delta.
Right.
Yeah, and those are the 2 I want to bring in.
So that puts okay. That also makes Omicron and New out. Is that okay? So those are your 6 and 7 that are out, Coach.
Yep.
Okay. So just I'll give the bad news first.
If only Congress could learn to compromise like us.
I know. Omicron is the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, which hey, they lost tonight, so. And St. Bonaventure, which is probably also going to happen. They got a tough road to hoe. And the 2 that you put in, Zeta is North Carolina, which I think is probably pretty safe. And Delta is Rutgers, who had a big win tonight. You guys are not even knowing that Notre Dame lost and Rutgers won. You put Rutgers in and took Notre Dame out.
Yeah, but D just got sad.
Yeah. Put that Carolina in there somehow. They snuck in there.
They snuck in.
They snuck in.
So the teams you put in were Michigan, Miami, Oregon, Indiana, Memphis, Belmont, Carolina, and Rutgers. And the teams you booted, UAB, SMU, Virginia Commonwealth, Florida, Dayton, BYU, Notre Dame, and St. Bonaventure. I think those are pretty good moves. I would say the only one what I think is really going to happen, maybe swap Belmont with Notre Dame, and I think that's probably what's going to happen. Other than that, I think you guys got this pretty right.
We'll take
Time to put us on the committee. Get us paid. Let's go. Let's go.
Get your tickets to they do it in Indianapolis, right? Isn't that where they always talk about the committee meeting in Indy?
Yeah.
Yeah. But thanks for doing this. I know it actually took longer than it usually. Sometimes that thing takes like 20 minutes and we're done. But it took like 40 minutes tonight.
We have more agreement.
Yeah.
I usually don't think about it as hard.
About food.
Yes. Next week is all about food, which I think I know which hot seat I'm doing, but I think I changed it at the last minute last year, so who knows? But yes, next week we do our annual March food bracket. And then in 2 weeks, we'll have our NCAA bracket show where we will go through the entire bracket and make all our picks and whatnot. The week after that was supposed to be MLB previews.
Well,
that's not happening.
You know how that go.
So either we'll bump things up or I'll just take the slot over so we can do some other stuff, or I don't know. Because I am quite excited to start the new hot seat I was telling you guys about in April, but we'll see if I can get there. But anyways, we are SLZE Sports, SLZeSports.com. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at SLZE Sports. Every Tuesday night, 9 p.m., we are right here on Facebook Live. Check us out. Like us. Like our YouTube channel, too. YouTube channel is SLZE Sports. Just look it up. All our videos for now are being posted the day after the show, so check them out. But anyways, thank you for listening and watching. And here's to the new U.S. champ, D. Well, and just because I want to hear the song anyways. Have a good night, everybody.